Hey everybody, it's David here from Team Ultra Instinct. Today I'm just kind of wanting to talk about a lot of things, kind of more so the future of what's to come for the Dragon Ball Super card game. We had a huge announcement this weekend about the two current games. Uh, the new one being Dragon Ball Super card game Fusion World. I'm sure many of you have already heard about it. Um, and if you haven't heard about it, I'll give you a rundown real quick. So the original game that we all know and love is Dragon Ball Super Card Game, and the new title attached to it is Masters. So the original game will be called DBSCG Masters, while the new one, which is going to be both a physical and online version, that one is going to be called Dragon Ball Super Card Game Fusion World. Uh, so I just left this up here to show to keep supporting the Dragon Ball Super Card Game Masters version. This isn't going anywhere. I actually have a bright outlook for it. After talking with David Fashbinder and a bunch of other players, I think this game is still going to thrive just as it was before. In fact, I think Fusion World is only going to help it. But Fusion World, this is coming out in February of 2024, or at least that's their anticipated release date. I guess that could always change. There could be delays. So the original online client for Masters had actually been scrapped. We got the announcement this weekend at Gen Con. At the very beginning of part of Gen Con, I think it was that Thursday, they announced that this card game, Dragon Ball Super Card Game Fusion World, will be coming out. And we found out that the online client that is being released to that, it's replacing what Masters was going to get. And to give you a rundown, and at first I was upset to hear this news. I was upset to hear that there was a new card game coming out. Um, and I was upset, that I wasn't going to be able to use my cards from Masters in Fusion World. Fusion World functionalizes a little bit different from Masters, but it's really similar. Now, after kind of sitting there and thinking about it for a little bit, and getting to demo the game, talk with a bunch of players, talk with judges, and hear the developers talk about why they took this approach. I opened my mind to it, and I'm very eager to jump into Fusion World and continue playing Masters as well. I think Fusion World is actually going to be a great step to bring a lot more casuals into the game. And when they said this is a much more casual version of Masters, it definitely is. So if you haven't watched the video on any of their explanations, they break it down. This game's supposed to be a more simplified version of the game, and it's intended to be easier to learn and easier for new players to jump in, and kind of be a fresh start so everyone around the world can have it. Because originally Japan didn't have access to playing Masters. It was never printed there, and I believe that was due to some licensing issues. I could be wrong on that. But now Japan is actually getting Fusion World, which is actually fantastic to hear because that means a lot more regions are going to get it. I think currently they only have it being printed in Japanese and English currently, but it is going to be an online client, and that's something we all wanted. Now, it's not Masters, like I said. That sucks, but at the same time, it is what it is. I One of my main thoughts, and I'm not like entirely upset by it, and I've talked with a few players about it. I do think this should have been a more exclusively printed, not printed online, but it shouldn't have a physical version being released alongside it, honestly. They're still supporting Masters, which means we're going to be basically having twice the product if you're intending to play both games. But they're trying to alternate the release schedules so they're not released at the same time. I don't think that Fusion World should have gotten a physical version, but I understand the thought process behind it because, there's going to be players who don't want to solely be playing online on the online client. Um, and I'm hoping the online client stays pretty similar in terms of visuals and play of how it was in the beta when we were trying that for Masters. But the main reason they weren't able to do this for Masters, I believe, was actually they probably had a lot of reasons for it. I know one of the big issues was it was difficult to make. It's the problem we have in Masters is we were introduced with the counter windows, and counter windows 1 and 2 had always been very confusing for players, and it still is confusing. Even if you're an experienced player, it's still very confusing. I'm a judge, so to some degree, I have a pretty solid understanding of counter windows one and two. Um, but there's always that one card that makes something very stupid to understand. Um, and so with Fusion World, we're not actually getting any counters at all. So there won't be any counterattacks. There won't be counterattacks. There won't be counter plays. I'm trying to think if I forgot anything else. Counterattacks, counter plays. I guess that would be the only types of counters. Oh, counter counters, I guess. But you can't have counter counters without any other form of counters, right? So that's the biggest, really, really big change going into Fusion World, and maybe they'll have it in the future. I don't know. Um, Fusion World plays very similarly, um, and I know they also wanted to push it out for regions that didn't have this game, and were 6 years behind us. So if they just recently got the rights to even print this in Japan, you know they're gonna be 6 years behind everyone in the United States, and I think that's another reason they went for Fusion World and why they decided to translate this as the online client instead, including the difficulties with actually making it. And of course, they had to catch up with 6 years of cards to put into the database. But at the same time, I don't think that was the main issue because, we've seen companies like Magic or Wizards of the Coast and Konami do that with Yu Gi Oh! And Magic, where they have, 20 plus years of cards being implemented into their database. And so I don't think the 6 years of cards is really the biggest struggle for them. I think it was just the coding and ruling issues and erratas. Ooh, I know erratas and ban cards. They were struggling to figure out how to implement it, if they should just generate an entirely new format where some cards weren't errata the same or banned and they were just like in their original printings. And that could be confusing for players. But of course, I think many of us would have said, just keep it exactly the same, and then maybe they could have dabbled with some like other format on there or something. Um, but now, so Japan isn't going to have to catch up with 6 years worth of cards, and if they wanted to get a physical version over there, if they wanted to have masters, they would have to catch up with that 6 years behind. That's a lot of a lot of cards they would have to get. I don't even know what approach you would take to even catch up on that, because there's no possible way you could print from the beginning at set one and catch up all the way to all the other countries at what are we on? We're going on set 22 right now. Um, yeah, there's no way. There's no way you would be able to efficiently catch up to that without some sort of like speed up product. So I understand why they took the Fusion World approach. And overall, the game when I played it was actually, it was almost identical. There were a lot of there are a couple different rules. Like I said, there's no counters. Um, we do have, and I have the cards pulled up here. We have, so leaders, and this isn't a rule change. This is just cards. And shout out to Eggman Events for posting this. Thank you, Eggman, for doing this for the community. We actually already have two community groups now. We have one for Fusion World and Masters. Um, but so leaders are base 15K on the unawakened side as of current, and on the awakened sides they're 20K. None of the art here for these cards are going to be finalized. None of the layouts are finalized right now. These are bound to change, so just keep that in mind when looking at this. These are just all placeholder arts. Um, and I'm excited to see what they end up doing with the actual arts. But in terms of gameplay, this is what they gave us, and then we kind of just demoed it from here. So that, not a ruling change, but they did change leader powers, and I'm wondering if that's gonna stick. And I think it probably will. I think that's gonna stick. And this isn't really a ruling change, but I don't know if I should call it a mechanic change, or I don't know. This one's harder to explain, but easy at the same time. Cards do not have a combo cost now. So you can have a free 10K combo card, you can have a free 5K, you can have a free um, well, I guess free zero, but there is a card here. I'll just show you. It has zero combo power. It doesn't have a cost for comboing. None of them have a cost for comboing. And I'll explain what super combos currently changed into. I mean, they could always turn back into what they were. We'll see on that. But um, one of the biggest rule change they added in the game. Attacking is all the same. Turn player being, turn one, you can't draw a card on your very first turn, but you get to charge an energy. All the energy's all the same. Life's all the same. Cards you draw is all the same. Comboing's all the same. That all stuck. But turn two, when you are turn two of the game, you start with something called an energy marker. And having the energy marker, it is a once per game energy that is colorless that you can use. And once you use it, it's removed from the game. And you start with that for free. You don't have to do anything, just as second place, you start with it. And the best way I describe it as is it's the mana crystal that you start with in Hearthstone. And so you get your normal charge per turn, and then you also have that colorless energy that's temporary ready to use. Now, it was a little weird to get used to. It's something I can get used to, and I don't know how I feel about it currently. I don't know if they're intending to keep it. Sometimes it feels like it's broken, but I think that it only feels like it's broken when your opponent literally has no outs to a big play that you can do. So, for example, I can play this Goku on turn 4 because he costs me, 4 specified red, and then I'll just use that colorless temporary energy I have to pay for the 5th energy. And I can slam him down, and he's a 35k double striker. That's huge. Um, but with the game having free 10Ks, it's not as big as it was before. And so it's one thing that I could see if they add ramp into the game, I could see the temporary energy being an issue. If they don't add ramp into the game, which I have no clue what they're intending on adding. Um, I don't know what they're intending on adding, but if they add ramp, I could see that being an issue. Is it's an interesting mechanic, but yeah. Uh, Most of the keywords we already know are already in the game. They actually, a lot of the stuff with the cards, there's a more simplified text. We don't see any autos. I guess the leader is the best reference I can have for showing most of the stuff aside from keyword skills, but the keyword skills are pretty much all the same. So autos are now only in that blue box. They're not called autos, or at least to my knowledge, they're not called autos, but that's what we know them as. This, it's a trigger when attacking, you draw a card. That's the same as the normal card game. It would typically say, auto, when this card attacks, draw a card, or something like that. Um, and so that stayed the same. Awaken is, and don't get confused with, this being like a mandatory thing. This is still your choice for Awaken. It's whenever you want to, as long as you meet the condition for it, which is when your life is at 4 or less, and then you draw a card, and then you flip it over. Um, so, Awaken is now an activate battle, activate main, just as we knew it, but instead of it being a yellow keyword skill, it is now orange to symbolize that it's activate battle, activate main, which will also be shown right here. Activate battle in that orange text. Your once per turn still in your red text. And then, of course, the leader auto still being in blue. So none of that really changed. They just kind of cut out the auto keyword, I guess is the best way to put it. I don't know if it's a keyword, if I should be calling that, because it's technically not a keyword. But auto is not a word on cards anymore. So reviewing the leader card, when this card attacks, your simple draw one card, except this was broken, I think, in set one. Back in the days, if a card could do that, because typically they had to attack a leader card, but now you can still have advantage while attacking a battle card. Just thinking about that. We never actually originally had that type of stuff. Awaken condition at 4 or less. One notable change is you draw a card, just a card, and then you flip it over. Back in the day, we used to draw 2 in Awakening, so hand size is going to matter a lot more in this game. Um, and, when I was playing the demo, in terms of sped up gameplay, I think what they were mostly referring to, turns aren't going to take super long to perform. Now, the game may still go to like turn 8, turn 9. Um, like, that's always completely possible. It can get to that point, but you don't have to read all this text. You don't have to do all these conditions to just play a card from your deck. You don't have to do all of those shenanigans. It's a lot more simplified in terms of what you're doing. Like I'm playing a 20k critical, and on swing it negs something 10k. That's something more generic than let me play this for one because I met this condition, and then have this card on board, and then I'm at this amount of life, and no, it's none of that. I don't know if they're really going to go for the alternate leader awakening win con or not win cons awakenings. Um, just like having unison on board, and I don't even know if we're going to get unisons in this game. Maybe not, because I think that's when a lot of people started getting confused in the game. I hope the Z deck does translate over. I think that's a very interesting mechanic, but I don't know if it will either. Um, but anyway, back to the leader. This is actually a pretty good activate battle for something that was in set one originally. I'm comparing this to Masters set one. We have, draw a card on swing. Okay, cool, cool. But the activate battle, once per turn, not limited to your turn or your opponent's turn. You choose up to one of your red battle cards, and it gets 5k power for the battle. Not bad, actually. That's just like a free 5k combo. 5k combos aren't extremely broken in this game now because there's free 10k combos. But this is still a game of resources. Every card you use counts. So your combo cards, when you use those, you need to remember, am I going to need this card in the late game? Stuff like that. Or when you're charging cards, same thing. Like, am I going to need this card later on, or is this expendable? Um, but yeah, that free 5k power for the battle, pretty useful. Bump something up from 15 to 20, so now you can hit a leader. That's pretty useful. But let's dive into the battle cards now. So we have a Tien skillless card. It's 15k power, so that means it can hit the unawakened side without having to combo anything. And of course, you can buff it up to 20k so it can still hit someone. It's a one drop. So back in the day, we had one drops for 10k skillless, and um, obviously those aren't nearly as powerful as a one drop 15k skillless. But at the same time, if you really think about it, it's about the same thing. The only thing that's a little bit more busted is the fact that it's a 10k combo compared to a 5k combo. Because in this game, your leader being a base 15k compared to a base 10k in the other game, the one drops in both games essentially do the same thing. A 10k in Masters is still going to deal a damage to the leader on the unawakened side, and a 15k in this game is still going to deal a damage to the unawakened side. So I don't really know why they decided to go for the leader power change route and like the power change on the one drops and all that, but they decided to. And maybe it's to create this little difference where it's a little bit harder for one drops to go for game potentially, because a lot of them are at like 5k power if they have some sort of effect paired with it. Which I just noticed that if it's typically a one drop and it has an effect, it's the 5k power battle card. But on to the next card. We have a Whis, which I don't think we really had a lot of power negging, if any, in the original set one of Masters. But on play, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and it gets minus 5k power for the turn. This was actually pretty powerful in terms of the demo, because they could have a blocker out and there was only one blocker in the blue deck. The red deck didn't have blockers, the blue deck did. And it looks like blockers are going to be your main source of defense now, along with comboing, of course. But the blocker in there was 5k power, so you neg it 5k and it just died from board. Cards still die from power negging, so nothing really changed in terms of the rules of the game. It's pretty much all the same. Just there's no Z deck, unisons, or counters. And of course that free energy you get. But another 10k combo for a 5k battle card one drop. That's really really good. But I did notice if it tends to draw you a card, then it has like a 5k combo. So this Master Roshi one drop, pay one, play it. It's a really good turn one if you're going first because you're drawing a card. Now you have combo power on board. You can defend from an attack because it's just enough to get you over. And he's also 5k power. Then we have Android 18, a 20k skillless. Now we're all used to 20k skilllesses for 2 energy. That's nothing new for us. She's a 10k combo. And then we have a 2-drop 15k critical. Critical always still being a really good skill because of the resource denial, and you can pair it with this leader, bump it 5k to still, push through that extra power on the crit, and you can hit the awakened side. Also a 10k combo. A lot of 10k combos in this game. A lot. And here's where some of the text changes up. So we have 15k power on this Krillin, 10k combo 2 drop. Permanent. Your turn. I have seen that in Digimon, and I believe I've seen that in One Piece. I don't play One Piece as much. I demoed it, and that's about all I did from One Piece. But the your turn part, really clarifying instead of having, part of that auto and it's your turn and all that. Like, no, it's just in a red box, your turn. This card gets 5k power. I do like how they clean that up. It definitely, shorten the text on a card. The reason why a lot of Masters cards are getting such long text is because they have to be so specific with wording because there's just some ruling slip ups that happen where something can be abused. So we've had to have that extreme specification. So having this kind of like tied down to just in your turn um, in a red box is just a lot nicer to see. We still have self awakeners in the game, so that's cool to see. Here's an on play auto compared to a when attacking. Add up to one card from your life to your hand. I guess I should have pointed that out with these two for the on play. Um, and self awakening that's not having to swing at a leader can actually be really good. It's a nice way to benefit without having to lose that life when attacking. But there are cards that still on attack, take a life. This Android 17, it's solid because it's a self awakener while also being a 25k in the opponent's turn. It could be 25k on your own turn or 30k on the opponent's turn if you buff it, as long as you're buffing it with the leader ability for the battle. Of course, that's always temporary. But 25k in the opponent's turn and a Self Awakener on play. So this deck did have a lot of Self Awakening to go aggressive and still gain card advantage while playing cards. You're not negging anything in hand, really. Of course, you don't have to take a life, as it does specify at up to one card, and 0 is part of up to one. Then we have another 3 drop. This was a 1-up in the deck. I believe there were only like 3 or 4 1-ofs. Let's see. Beerus was a 1-of, Gohan was a 1-of, and Goku was a 1-of, and then the extra card. And other than that, everything was 2-ofs. But Beerus is actually pretty solid. 3 specified red. This is one of the things where the extra energy won't really benefit you. You can't crack the energy to use 2 of your own energies and then the temporary energy to play this because you need 3 red energy. The temporary energy is only colorless, so it would only benefit you in playing like Android 17, for example. But Beerus being a 20k critical, buff it with the leader skill, of course, make it 25, more threatening. When it attacks, you choose up to one of your other red cards and it gets 5k power for the turn. I did actually really like that mechanic because you have the leader buffing and now a battle card buffing, so you're getting some beefy swings just for the cards you have on board. Board control is always still important, so I'm wondering how many cards they're going to limit to removal because, you know, a card having built in removal on play and still being a threat is always really good. Then, so I always was thinking that the Piccolo was just straight up better than the Android 17, but they both have their scenarios. If I want to play the Android 17 and take the life, then that's where he comes in handy. But the Piccolo was just straight 25k all around. 3 drop, so we're kind of used to 3 drops having 30k power, but in this regard, we actually have a 4 drop with 30k power, skillless. They're all 10k combos still, like I said, Frieza. They're all Universe 7, which is nice. One thing I'll point out with the cards, they really cleaned up how they're doing the card traits, the character name. I don't think we're really going to have card names. I think it's just going to stick to the character names. And then the differentiation is the set number and then their traits, of course. I think mostly set number is going to be where it really changes. Or card number, potentially. I think a card number would be the big difference. Um, I didn't really like where they placed what type of card it was. I kind of think the number on top of the card showing the 30k or the power just takes up too much space, and the old layout for the card kind of did the card more justice in terms of showing the image because this image is really condensed. Of course, we're not going to have this demo stamp there, but I just really wanted to touch on layout because that was one of my biggest gripes when looking at cards. There was just the card art is not showing enough, whereas in Masters they show the card art like perfectly, but the borders are so obstructive in here that I just don't like it. And I get the kind of scouter look they're going for, but I hope that really changes. It's that's my biggest gripe. But back to the cards. 4 drop 30k, cool. Then we have this critical Gohan. Actually, a really good card. When it attacks, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, and it gets minus 10k power for the turn. So that lasts for the turn. It's also only a 5k combo, 25k power. Straight for red to play it, so that's pretty rough. So I think we're going to see a lot more specified cost in this game because of that second, or that temporary energy we have. But you can swing at the leader, uh, aiming for critical, neg something on board for 10k power, and then you can swing your leader at the card you neg 10k power, and then have that extra advantage of it being negged that 10k. So it's really nice to have this. Of course, it can still kill a blocker on swing. Your autos will still go first, so when attacking, you'll attack. They can't block yet because you have to resolve your one attacking first. You'll neg the blocker to death. The blocker will get removed. They no longer can resolve blocker unless they have another on board. Um, so this gets around them being able to block it. This card was actually really powerful when I was using it in the demo, and of course, my boy Gohan had to have the justice of getting some spotlight in the deck. I enjoyed that. The demo was really fun. I'll once again reiterate that. I played it multiple times, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I am demoing it to my locals. That's how much I enjoyed it. The next card we have here, the one of with 0 combo power, which actually lost me a game, which was really funny. 35k power 5 drop, which actually isn't that bad. That's not broken in terms of master setting either. In the original days, that wasn't totally uncommon to have a 35k power 5 drop. I think that happened a few times. It'll gain some power in some way on attacks, but this one's just a raw 35. Double strikes, so we still, like I said, have our traditional keywords, double strike, critical. We haven't seen dual attack yet, blocker. Um, I'm trying to see, a super combo is in this game. But this is an on-play auto, and this one specifies it's conditioned to trigger if your leader card is red, so it'll trigger if your leader is red, which of course the demo leader is. I do like the cleaned up text there. Choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and give it minus 20k power for the turn. Decks are not restricted by your leader color like One Piece. You can run red cards in a blue deck. You can run yellow, so on. You can splash colors in. But this was nice to either kill something on board or use it for board controlling a bit. So you can swing your leader or something. Like, once again, it's negging 20k. That's actually a really big deal. And it's pretty beefy. You buff it with the leader and becomes a 40k double strike for 5 energy. That's not bad. I'm wondering, like I said, if they're going to add dual attack. I don't know if dual attack's too broken, but I feel like in my mind they will add it. I'm just wondering if they're also going to add like some sort of sensu bean in terms of I gain 5k power for the turn, um, but like no untapping energy or anything like that. Like an activate battle that you have to pay in an extra card that does that, and it's only that. Super combos are really, really different in this game. So instead of them drawing you a card now, there's still 4 per deck, and they actually can be a threat, which is hilarious. They're 30k power. But it has an auto, and this one does actually say auto now that I see that, so that's interesting. Uh, Opponent's turn. If your leader card is red, when this card is used in a combo from your hand, this card gets plus 10k combo power. So that's a 20k combo, super combo. Now, in my mind, I understand why they got rid of the draw because now they're taking away a little bit of the offensive oppression where you can just, slam, super combo, draw 2. Oh man, I found what I was looking for. I'm digging this much to find a card without paying any energy, right? So I kind of understand why they got rid of the drawing. It creates more of a card for card sort of gameplay instead of like, yeah, I didn't neg anything in hand when I combo this. So that was interesting to me to see this. That was like one of the really big card changes there. Um, I'm looking forward to see what other super combo skills come out of this game, if any at all, or if they're just kind of going to stick with this formula for it. Um, and there's only 2 of those, but you could include 4 in a deck. Once again, no super combo ruling changes. Extra cards feel like they're going to be way more impactful in this game in terms of activate battles. Because activate battles in Masters, there's a few cards that are really, really powerful, but then there's like some cards that just you don't even care about. Like, you're never going to use them. And of course, if they're the negates in Masters, that's a whole totally different story. But we don't have those type of cards here. All right, this is a new setting. Um, but activate battle here. You know, you choose up to one of your red leader cards, gets 15k power, or leader or battle. 15k power for the battle. Then you neg one of your opponent's battle cards, minus 5k for the turn, so you can kill something potentially, or it could be like a 20k combo. That's really nice. It was really strong in the demo seeing that, but it wasn't one of. This was interesting to see the God Kamehameha, and I will point out they do have traits, so I'm wondering if they're going to do something with that or not. Um, I don't know. That might have just been temporary for the demo. We'll see on that. If you have no battle cards, reduce the cost of this card in your hand by 1 red, so it becomes a 1 cost as well. And then activate main. Choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with 30k power or less and KO it. That's really strong. For 1 energy, just pop a 30k or less. Like, oh, all right, cool, cool. In the early days of Super, that would be very, very busted. In terms of what's coming here, I don't really know how strong that's actually going to be since there's like 35k raw power straight like right off the bat. Of course, with this deck, you can manipulate it a little bit. You can on play neg with Whis, you know, neg 5k, swing a third leader combo the Whis. Now you have no cards on board, and then pop a 35k originally, but it got reduced to a 30k. Um, Oh, and then one thing I noticed here. So they have this color wheel now, and it indicates what color it is via the text. So it's saying, you know, R for red. Red looks like it's in the top right, and I believe in blue section it's going to be here, and it'll be a B. And I'm wondering if they're actually going to include purple in this game, or if they're just going to stick with black. And the only reason I think they might do purple is so it's easier to differentiate it from blue instead of doing like BL or something like that. Because in here, no, it is a U. So no, it'll probably still be black. Um, I am hoping they include purple, but it'll still be black, I'm sure. Um, but that's the entire red deck. We'll go on to the blue deck. This one does stuff when it works with your hand a little bit differently, so we'll get there. Same unawakened side effects for the Vegeta, but the awakened side, it gains this activate main where it's once per turn if you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand. This card gets plus 15k power for the turn. So it wants you to have 7 or fewer as conditions for strong effects. 35k power for a leader base is huge. Um, we don't have negates in the game, so you're either blocking that or you're going to have to combo out of that. You know, one super combo is going to get you out if they don't combo. But being able to just do that and go, cool, I'm 35k base, no combo, go ahead, combo out. You know, you have to have your super combo or else this is going to be a few cards out of your hand. Like at least two 10k cards out of your hand. That's really strong. I hate the idea of working with 7 or fewer in hand, but for an effect like that, yeah, fair enough. One thing I'll point out, I'm sure the Sun Goten was supposed to be a Trunks Youth. The Trunks Youth is like the Roshi where it's on play draw card. Um, so this deck has Goten as the 1-drop 15k. Then it's got the blocker, like I said, this Bulma 5k blocker, 10k combo power. In here, it's got its 20k skill as Majin Buu. Then in here, it does have a when attacking for the Sun Goten. The Goten is 15k when attacking. You know, add up to 1 card from your life to your hand. Okay, we finally see an attacking Self Awakener. Then, if you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with energy cost of 2 or less and return it to its owner's hand. So, blue is still doing some board control via bouncing the hand. We'll see if it ends up doing bottom decking as well. But as of current, we don't see that. Then we have the Trunks Youth. Another interesting card. On play, add a card from your life to your hand. Another 2-drop, 15k. Permanent, your turn. If you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand, it gets 10k power. So now it's a 25k for 2 energy. That's pretty good for early days of Dragon Ball. um, and, you know, there's some synergy here because you can see some Go Tank stuff. I'll get to the one that actually synergizes with it. But nice on play for Self Awakening. Both decks have Self Awakening. That wasn't extremely common back in the day to have just in their natural colors. Like blue had it, but it was via an extra card that you couldn't play until you had 5 energy. And red did have it as a 1-drop. So that there's some things changing in this game. Another 3-drop, 25k power Go Tanks. This throws me off so much because I used to play this card a lot in the original Masters game. This used to be a green card, so like I said, these are placeholder arts. But it used to be a green card that made your opponent discard a card on swing to their leader. And I'm hoping they don't add hand hate decks right away, and like super oppressive ones at that. Maybe like a couple cards that say your opponent discards a card, but nothing that's like, yeah, discard like three or something like that, or some ridiculously cheap ways to do it. I think three energy ones to lose a card is more fair and still have some aggression. Maybe even critical paired with it. I still think that's fair. Um, and I'm wondering if the colors are going to have these keywords tied more into it. Like red's going to have crit more, and then blue's going to have blocker more. I don't know. We'll see on that. But so then we have this Gohan. This is actually pretty crazy for a 3 drop. If you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand, this card gets plus 15k power. So he's a 35k 3 drop. That's pretty ridiculous. And this is actually one card I would have actually liked to see in Masters because I couldn't think of any off the top of my head. But this Piccolo here, on play, if you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand, of course, we see a lot of this so far, add up to 1 blue extra from your drop to your hand. Holy cow, that would be awesome in Masters. There's so much you could synergize with that. But I think I understand why we don't have something like that, at least not tied to like a generic card like this. But I actually really like this Piccolo card. I can see it being abused. I was abusing it with this Gallic Gun card. It's very strong. I actually really like this card, but it is a 5k combo, so they have to have some trade off for it to be pretty solid. Um, and we have this Goten that was also one of those great pairings, like or Gotenk, sorry, it was a great pairing. 7 or fewer cards in hand on play. Choose up to one Sun Goten and up to one Trunks Youth, both blue with energy cost of 2 or less when you drop to your hand. So, like I said, this is supposed to be a Trunks Youth on play draw card, and then this 15k Goten. You can add those to hand. You can mix and match. You can add the two Super Saiyan ones to your hand. I just think that's very interesting to see. And we do see some of that cleaned up text that they were including in Masters, where they have the hyphens specifying exactly what to grab. So I like that they're learning. They are learning. They're learning from every single one of their games, and I love that they're coming back to Dragon Ball Super card game to just throw in everything they've learned at the players and be like, look, we still love you guys. We love what this game has done for us. We love how people receive it. So I really like their approach to all of this game right now, and they are very caring developers. They do listen to us. I'm sure they really wanted to do Masters online, but it was just so difficult for them. Back to the cards. Goku 4 drop 30k. Then we have this Vegeta. I actually really like this Vegeta. If your leader card is blue, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards that energy cost of 4 or less and place it at the bottom of the deck. Nice on play auto. That's very strong for removal. Of course, it can't get rid of the 5 drop Goku in the other deck, but it does get rid of some threats that are 4 or less. Double strike 35k, so both of them are double strikers, so it's nice to see that double strike carries over into multiple colors. We just haven't seen it with the blocker and crits so far. Super combos Videl, exact same super combo just for blue leader. This Gallic Gun card. I couldn't remember if we had a Gallic Gun, and I didn't look it up for Masters, but I actually really like it. Um, it's very similar to Beerus Destroys, but like slightly stronger in terms of the power buff. Maybe not overall skills, but the power buff. Because obviously you can't have a large hand paired with it once I get to it, but it's an activate battle. Choose up to one of your blue leader cards, blue battle cards. It gets 15k power for the battle, and then if you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand, draw one card. So it's replacing itself. It's an advantage for staying at 7 or less in hand. I'm sure this is going to end up being a 4 of in the deck, because that's a very strong card. So if this translates over into the actual game, I'm probably going to try blue and just slam 4 of that, and then use this Piccolo because that's just so good. Um, and then extra card here, Final Flash. If you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand, reduce the cost of this card in your hand by 1, so it can be a 1 drop removal. The only downside of this card, activate main, discard 1 blue card from your hand, so now I'm losing an extra card even to do this. Choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards that it costs a 5 or less and place it at the bottom of the deck. The only huge advantage, I'm removing a 5 drop for 1 energy, so that's really powerful. Um, But those are the demo decks as of current. So I'll jump over to, and I know this is going to be a longer podcast, but I want to talk about everything. This is just such huge news. I've talked with so many people about this stuff, and I've just learned so much, gotten so many opinions. Um, and it's just, I don't know. It's a big stride for the game, but I'm just scrolling through Fusion World's website here just to kind of gather anything I may have missed. I think the product is the most important part here. So I'll jump into the product. Like I said, this drops in February. The release date for their starter decks are February 16th, as of right now, unless there's some sort of delay. I'm jumping in head first in this game. I'm going to collect it all the same, just like Masters. Starter deck, we have a Son Goku starter deck. We have a Vegeta starter deck, Broly starter deck, and a Frieza starter deck. So we're seeing all four of the first original big leaders from Galactic Battle and Masters. So we had Golden Frieza, Super Saiyan Blue Goku, I guess Vegeta and Broly, but Goku was a starter deck leader, and then Vegeta was actually within the set. But it's like the four most iconic leaders out of set one, and they are carrying that over here. And I'm wondering if they're going to functionalize the same. We'll see. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of changes. I'm sure Frieza isn't going to untap energy this time around, but he's still going to have like good draw power, have some like decent effects going behind him. I'm sure maybe we'll have a cold bloodlust like type effect on a battle card that's like auto on your opponent's turn or something when they play something like two or less. You can negate its skills or something. I'm wondering if we'll see that. Maybe not. I don't know. But interesting to see that those are the first four leaders they're doing, or starter decks, not leaders. I don't know what else they have it planned for the set. But let's go back here, go to the booster pack. One big thing out the gates, there are two secret rares right away, and I'm wondering if secret rares in Fusion World are not going to be like they are in Super. And the reason I say that, sorry, in Masters, the reason I say that is because all of their other card games, the secret rares, which Battle Spirits doesn't have it, but One Piece and Digimon, the secret rares, they're not limit one in a deck. You can't have one ultimate in a deck in there because there is no card with ultimate. You can have your four secret rares if you really wanted to, but typically some of the secret rares aren't worth running in four in those games. But in here, I'm wondering if they're going to take the same approach. I think that's probably the right approach because in Masters, it does feel like a lot of the times if someone sees their secret rare, they just kind of win the game. Unless both players saw it, then it's more of a fair matchup. But if someone doesn't see it, then they're at more of a disadvantage than someone does. It just kind of is what it is. So I'm wondering if they're taking that approach to it. I don't know. They are going to have alternate arts or design cards, so it's nice to see that sticking around. This the way releases at the same time. Looks like the starter decks, their release date is a week before the actual set release date, so that's interesting. But they release at the same time as the pre-release date, so maybe there will be like, oh, I didn't think about that. Maybe they'll have like another super pre-release, and then this will drop in like, I don't know, maybe January. I doubt December. Prices are about the same. All the MSRPs are the same, so nothing new there. 8 liters, so it's going to be two per color. So it looks like in the first set, which I'm taking a guess, they have 5 colors on the color wheel. The first set looks like it's not going to have all of the colors right away. So it'll be like the original Galactic Battle in that regard. But I'm sure the set after that will be an introduction for the next color, which isn't uncommon for their card games. They've done that in One Piece. They've done that in Digimon. I'm expecting that. Yeah, I've seen this stuff all before. It's nothing new to me. One different thing, they're actually promoting official sleeves for this game, so I thought that was interesting. Um, one display box contains 12 packs. Yeah. I'm wondering what this is exactly going to be because I'm not entirely understanding that. I guess 64 sleeves in a pack, and then a display box is a slate. Oh my gosh, display box is 12 packs. 64 sleeves. Why would you have 64 sleeves? It's a little awkward because usually it's a 50 card deck. Well, it's still 50 to 60 cards in a deck. I saw that on here. Um, and then your leader sleeve, if maybe they won't include a leader sleeve. I don't know. Um, and then a 15 card sideboard, but that would be like a 70 card or 75 card sleeve pack. So yeah, it's still 50 to 60. I don't know. I don't know what those sleeves are going to look like. I don't even know how to guess that one. Maybe, oh, maybe there is no sideboard in this game. That's one thing I should have asked. I didn't ask if they intended on having a sideboard. I asked if they intended on having a fifth color, and because I happen to notice that. And yes, there is an intended fifth color coming. I know that much. You know, the color wheel has it. Obviously, it's planned for it. Um, a matter of getting it right away or not, we'll see. To be determined. Um, I doubt it'll be in the first set though, because it's a lot of colors to kind of pick up on. But they'll do the gradual learning curve for it. Overall, though, great demo. I enjoyed it. I can't wait to teach more people this. And sorry for such a long video. There is just so much to take in from this game. Uh, and, you know, I'm excited to jump into it, like I've been saying. And I know there's a lot of gripes out there, but I think there's a bright future for both games. I, I think that both games will thrive perfectly fine. You know, casual players will stick to Fusion World, and those who are ready to take the next step to Masters, you know, they'll jump into the competitive world of that. And Masters is always going to be the more competitive version, probably their most competitive game. Actually, now I'm thinking about it, I think Masters is their most competitive game out of all of their card games currently. And it'll stay like that because everyone loves the complexity of it and all the interactions it has and how interactive the game is and so much that you can do. And I don't think Fusion World is going to be replacing it anytime soon because this game, like I said, is going to be a more casual game. Yes, of course, you could always make a game competitive even if it's casual, but we'll kind of see. And I don't know, there's a lot to hear. There's a lot to expect. We're in the very early stages of Fusion World. You know, we only heard about it a few days ago, and we have so much more to hear. There's an open beta coming. I'm looking forward to the open beta. Um, and I'm trying to think if I missed any other important information, but honestly, that's really the biggest information. Just everyone who is from Masters, keep your hopes up. I look forward to playing with everyone in Fusion World and in Masters. I'll be playing both competitively. I'm looking forward to streaming Fusion World once it officially drops, and hopefully you know, I should be able to stream the open beta because this time it won't be as secretive for them. Um, so I'm very excited for all the Dragon Ball content I'm going to bring for everyone. Um, and I hope everyone does enjoy Fusion World when it drops, and you know, give me your thoughts and opinions on Fusion World and Masters and this whole situation. You know, I want to hear everyone's point of views, everyone's opinions, everyone's thoughts. And once again, I apologize for such a long video, but I hope you guys did enjoy this, and I hope I did kind of break down a lot for those who are curious about things and kind of what it's looking like for the game. And I will see you guys all in the next video. So have a great night and great day wherever you are, and I'll talk to you guys next time.